Welcome back to another episode of the Shout at the Devils podcast. I'm Daniel Amoia. I'm a Devils beat reporter for the Hockey Writers. I'm here alongside Justin Brady, who runs Devils Fanatics on Instagram. And the Devils had a pretty rough road trip, 1-3-0. They followed up an 8-game winning streak with that road trip. So the vibes obviously came crashing down a little bit around the team. With that being said, some positives, some negatives, but obviously the Devils and their fans wanted more out of that trip, especially with, like I said, how high the momentum was coming in. Justin, what were your initial thoughts?
I think my initial thoughts is first off, they miss Brett Pesce out there desperately. Like ever
Mhm.
since he went down with an injury, it's like the whole defense just doesn't look the same at all. They're having a hard time clearing the puck. They're still not being disciplined. They're taking a lot of penalties in games. Their penalty kill has been struggling over this road trip so far. What else? Like they're creating sloppy turnovers that turn into goals. Dawson Mercer had a bad turnover yesterday that led to a Ducks goal. Nemec had a turnover. Casey had a turnover that both led to goals this road trip. Like it's just a lot of sloppy, uncharacteristic play from this Devils defense. And this shouldn't be the case where it's like one man goes down, it's like the rest of the defense becomes depleted. It shouldn't be like that. They're gonna have to figure out their act together. Another thing is like they're just getting behind too early in these games where they're digging themselves into a hole that they just can't get out of. Like, all right, it's one thing to give up the first goal of the game, but then it turns into 2, 3 goals, like we saw in Colorado, like we saw in Anaheim, where it was impossible for the Devils to come back in those games. And you can't be playing like that in the first period. You cannot decide, oh, let's start playing hockey now in the second or third period. Like it's a full 60-minute game, and the Devils are not giving a full 60-minute effort right now. And even Keefe was touching on that at some point during the road trip. Um, they're gonna have to come out ready for these games from now on, and it's good that they're coming back home. They get the 3 days rest that they needed. Another tough opponent coming up, Montreal. Montreal is a very good team. They're, I think, first place in the league right now, or first place in the East at least, right above the Devils there. So it's gonna be a big test for them. Two young teams going at it, or I don't even want to consider the Devils a young team anymore, but
They're
I,
not.
I'm so used to saying that they're not a young team anymore. They're trying to mature. They're trying to figure it out, and there's still some struggles there, and there's still a lot of learning to do. But look, you most likely will get Connor Brown back this upcoming Thursday, so that's a big plus right there. Connor Brown's a big void to not have in that lineup, and maybe you get Cody Glass. I do not know the exact timeline on him. I don't think really any of us do, but even if he starts practicing again, that's a very big addition right there, just to get back in practice, and maybe you get him back by the weekend or next week. And then, I mean, Pesci's probably out for another 3, 4 weeks, maybe even over a month. And then look, Kovacevic, I mean, I don't New Year's, right? Probably January, somewhere around that time frame. So the Devils are down a lot of guys right now. It's unfortunate, but as we were saying, Daniel, it's just like, yeah, every team goes through injuries, and you're just gonna have to overcome them. Good teams overcome injuries, and the Devils have not been able to do that over these past few years now. So, gotta find a way to gut out some wins here before you get those guys back.
I'm gonna go against that claim a little bit that
Go ahead.
good teams overcome injuries because and it seems like every season really the past few seasons the injuries that Devils have been handed have just been decimating and obviously their top guys are healthy right now, but I mean so many guys, Kovacevic, Glass, Dadonov, Pesci, like they're all integral parts of the team, and I could understand like okay, one guy goes down like the Florida Panthers last season, they could still overcome it. But when you have 4 or 5 key guys to your team, there's no NHL team that's going to be able to play at the same level than before those guys were hurt. But it's just been unfortunate. I want to commend Sheldon Keefe because even during the 8-game winning streak, he kept constantly saying, I'm not ready to run with the mature narrative. This team has made a lot of mistakes. There's been a lot of things that have been masked by the way we're playing, but I'm not fully happy with where this team is at. And look, a coach knows their team usually better than anyone else. And he wasn't wrong. And a lot of those things came out in this road trip. You look at the penalty kill, which was so incredible, but you knew that it wasn't going to last forever. They weren't going to be killing every single penalty and outscoring the opposition on the penalty kill the rest of the season. That just was not realistic. And it did come back to earth, and that was a big thing. Would they give up 4 power play goals against Colorado? Look at the guys that are out. Pesci, Glass, Kovacevic, and Brown. 4 guys, all key penalty killers. So it's not realistic to expect the PK to be the exact same in that instance. Another thing, like you said, they've been going to the box way too much, even with the good penalty kill. Coming into last night, they were 8th worst in the league in terms of penalties. And this is something that actually really surprised me, that popped out to me when I was doing some research last night. Luke Hughes took his 8th minor of the season last night, 16th penalty minute. That matched his total from all of last season. And it's November 3rd. When you have those caliber of guys out of the penalty kill, and then you need Luke, and then he's in the box a lot, it hurts. Now it seems like Dougie Hamilton and Brendan Dillon now are the number 1 penalty killers, and Dillon's been great this year, don't get me wrong, but all those other depth guys who are so great on the kill just are not there. So when you have any defenseman taking penalties and taking themselves out of the equation, it's really a depleted penalty kill that has to go out there. Jonas Siegenthaler in general also has really struggled to start this season. And we talked about this in the summer. Siegenthaler's had a very strange track. He's been like elite shutdown defenseman, then not great, then elite shutdown defenseman, then not great. And so far, he was great last season with Kovacevic. He has not been that great so far. And that's really hurting the Devils. If you look at some of the analytics, he's basically played to the caliber of like a 3rd pairing defenseman. And with these injuries, they need him to be a top pair D like he was last season. So that's hurt them as well. Some better news, obviously. Jacob Markstrom was extended. I know some fans weren't the happiest about it, but if you look at the cap situation, I believe 13% of their cap goes to their goaltending tandem. As long as they can stay healthy, you basically know what you're going to get for the most part. And Jacob Markstrom, right after finding out he was going to be $12 million richer, had a tremendous performance in LA, battling the home Dodgers crowd that was probably paying more attention to the World Series game than the actual game. But yeah, Markstrom was phenomenal. Justin, what were your thoughts on the extension and how Markstrom was able to rebound in that performance?
First off, to rebound, that's so big. He made 43 out of 44 saves. Tremendous performance by him. That's what you expect from a guy like him. When you're down a lot of guys, you need guys to step up, right? Jack Hughes has stepped up. Dawson Mercer has stepped up. And now it's time for another guy to step up. Markstrom stepped up. And it was only a matter of time until he found his game again. And it's just a matter of, can he keep that up? Because it's the unfortunate thing is, like, it seems like in the past where one Devils goalie's playing good, the other one's kind of on a bit of a skid. So now it kind of, over this road trip, it kind of changed. Markstrom had a really good game, and Allen struggled in the 2 games that he appeared in this road trip. Gave up some goals that he probably would want back, right? So, but overall, about the extension, I know a lot of people are hating on it. And I know a lot of people have already switched up as soon as they saw Markstrom playing like himself again. It's just the Devils fan base. I get it. But I think it's a good extension overall. It's short term. If this was 5 years, $6 million a year, then I would question it a lot. But it's only 2 years. And even if you wanted to, you could probably find a way to get it out of that contract if Markstrom really had a bad year next season. So there's definitely ways out of that contract. There's wiggle room, but overall, I do not have any complaints about it. And look, Markstrom's a high caliber goalie. He's been like that for years now. Has been a Vezina candidate in the past 3-4 years. So he definitely deserves this type of money. And as you were saying, like 13% of that goes to the Devils goaltending tandem. That's pretty good overall. And I feel like that has to be lower than most teams around the league, especially considering that Allen took that massive pay cut for $1.8 million a year, which really helps the Devils a lot. So overall, I don't mind it. And I know Markstrom is going to get back to playing consistently again. I just know eventually he will. He's too good of a goalie not to. So I have faith in him. And then another thing. So look, extend him for 2 years. So that doesn't include this year. So basically 3 years, basically he has left on his deal at the moment. So that kind of tells me that the Devils are expecting Yegorov to be ready by the end of that 3-year contract or the 2-year extension. Because I feel like Yegorov is your guy going forward after Markstrom, Allen, and then I don't know what they're going to do with Nico Dawes. Poor Nico Dawes right now. He just started his 100th game in Utica, and he's probably sick and tired of being down there. He could very well be a backup goalie in for some other team right now. So I don't know what they're going to do with Nico Dawes, and it doesn't seem like he's going to be on the Devils goaltending tandem unless someone goes down with an injury. Obviously, fingers crossed that doesn't happen, but tough situation for him to be in right now. So, but overall, I like the extension, and look, you got your tandem locked up for the next 3 to 5 years now. So overall, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get some clarification on waivers rules exactly because it's all very confusing when you look into it. But it seems like if most likely if Dawes comes up to the NHL again, even for a very short stint, he's probably going to need waivers to go back down. Again, still trying to get clarification, so don't take 100% word on that. But yeah, I mean, I know regardless if he plays 8 more games, I believe 8 or 9, he would definitely need waivers. But I believe it's a possibility that even if he doesn't play, if he just dresses, he would need waivers. But that's besides the point. We know that he's basically out of the equation now with Markstrom extended those 2 years. And obviously, like you said, feel bad for Dawes. He's a competitor. He has done a good amount to show that he can hang around in the National Hockey League. But I also understand the Devils' perspective, not wanting to take chances and having those 2 veterans locked up. This is just to add for anyone who was doubting or upset with the Markstrom extension. Out of 48 eligible goalies this season, so that's goalies who have played 4 or more games, Markstrom is 5th in high danger save percentage. So he's making those tough stops. He's locked in. Almost all of his goals allowed have been low danger, which is a little alarming in a way, sure, but it also shows that they're kind of fluky and unlucky. His low danger save percentage right now is .912, which is, I believe, the worst in the league. The worst in the league last season was Justus Annunen at .949. Markstrom's at .912 right now. So that shows that even Markstrom, if he continues to somehow oddly struggle in low danger save situations, 912 to 949 is a big jump. He's not going to be at 912 forever when every goalie in the NHL was 949 or more like 960 and above. I think Markstrom was around like 957, 960 last season. So he's not going to instantly go to 912. I think it just shows that he wasn't seeing the puck super well early on, and that obviously corrected in the LA game. So yeah, obviously super happy for Markstrom that he has that situation, that goalie situation kind of figured out. He could stay in one place and get that stability for his family for the next couple seasons after this one. One more point I want to make. The schedule has been brutal for the Devils. They've been playing some teams where the other team is just completely refreshed, and the Devils have done so much travel, played so much hockey, and that doesn't negate some of the mental mistakes they've been making, stuff like that. But at the same time, like, it seems like the last couple seasons, the Devils have had so many back-to-backs every season. Travel's been kind of rough, and it's not just the mileage in travel, it's when you're playing and the teams you're playing against and what their situation is. Because bottom line is the Ducks were very rested last night. The Devils were not really rested at all, and that's not a recipe for success regardless of anything else. So it's unfortunate for the Devils, but obviously they're going to get some nice rest now. They better make good use of that rest because the Canadians are a dangerous team, fun to watch this season.
They definitely are. And look, the Devils are 5-0 at home this year. It seems like they're very comfortable playing in their own bar, and that's how it should be, playing in front of the home fans. And I expect a good response from the team. Don't let the road trip get to you. Use these few days of rest, get healthy again, maybe get a couple guys back, get your mind right again, spend some time with your family, friends, loved ones. And yeah, just get back to playing good old Devils hockey like we know they're able to, right? So it'll be interesting coming up here. Yeah, I'm expecting Markstrom to get to start Thursday. He's the hot hand, I guess, for a short sample for one game. And Allen has struggled his last two starts. I would start Markstrom and go from there. See what happens. Look, it's a disappointing road trip, no doubt about it. 1-3 after coming off an 8-game winning streak is definitely not ideal. But as we said, the Devils getting an 8-game winning streak gives them more wiggle room to make mistakes, to have injuries, to overcome a lot of things. And they're 9-4 right now. 9-4 is a great record. They're first place in the Metropolitan Division. I'm very happy with that overall. So just keep it up and just find some consistent play over this next 3-game homestand. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I know people are always going to be saying like, "Oh, you should be beating these quote unquote easy teams." I'm going to counter that and say there's basically no such thing as an easy team in the National Hockey League. The parity in this league is insane. Currently, 27 of the 32 teams have a record above 500, NHL 500, with the overtime points in consideration. So basically, every game on every given night is a close game. So many games going to overtime. Um, it's really about those little details because that's what separates elite teams from ones who don't perform as well. Because for the most part, 90+% of teams are going to be playing a very close game every single night. That's just the way the National Hockey League is right now. So it's not really like saying like football when you'd have like, I don't know, the Browns play like the Bills. Like obviously the Bills are probably going to win that game, but it's not the same in hockey because even a team like the San Jose Sharks, who are one of the worst teams in the league, could go put up 6-7. Of course I said it. It was inevitable, but like they could put up a very large amount of goals very quickly. That's just the talent, the speed in this league. So you can't count any team out. And we saw that with the Ducks last night. Sure, they may not be a Stanley Cup contender this season, but they have a lot of veteran guys and some young guys who could make plays. Cutter Gauthier, Beckett Seneca, mixed with vets like Chris Kreider, Frank Vetrano. So yeah, just can't count any team out. I want to bring up one other quick point. Luke Hughes, obviously, and look, I think there's a possibility Luke might be the best of the Hughes brothers when all is said and done. But right now, he is not there yet. He's still struggling. It looked like he was taking a step in the first couple games. He put up like 4 points in his first 2 games or something like that. But he's really struggled. This is according to the Devil statistician, Nick Cahill. Luke's 36 shot attempts blocked is tied for 4th most in the NHL. So he hasn't scored yet. He's just struggling to get pucks through. And look, that'll come with time. We see his edge work. We see his speed. We see his stick. We know that he's going to be elite, but he's still fighting it a little. He's not there yet, and he's learning. Quinn was not great right away either. It took him a few seasons. And same with Jack, obviously. So I'm not concerned long term or anything, but for this Devils team that's decimated, it would help if Luke could take a little bit of a step offensively. And he's shown flashes, but right now, I think for a power play, I think Dougie Hamilton is getting pucks through to the net better. Even strength, completely different story. But for a power play, I think Dougie should be power play 1 right now, personally, just because he's getting those pucks through better. So, yeah, just want to bring that up real quick. Couple quick positives. Dawson Mercer, aside from the really bad turnover against the Ducks, has been great. I mean, over a point per game. You cannot possibly ask for anything more. And he redeemed himself, making a perfect saucer pass to Jack. Jack's been great as well. Arseny Gritsuk has really stood out to me. Didn't get on the point sheet, but against the Sharks, the Devils were down by a lot, and he was still hustling, using his size, making plays, being physical, even though the game was basically out of reach. That's signs of a winning hockey player. And same thing against the Ducks. Gritsuk was phenomenal. Really, really stood out, making plays. He's a little sneak bit in terms of finishing, finding the back of the net, but he looks like someone who absolutely belongs. And I think he should stay in the top 6. I really do think that's where he's best. And the advanced numbers last night showed that. And for as much as it's unfortunate that that Jonas Siegenthaler had been struggling, Brendan Dillon has been phenomenal. After getting his surgery in the offseason, he has completely transformed his game. He's been a shutdown defenseman. And he's even showed a bit of an offensive touch, not expecting that to stay because he's never really done that in his career. But he just looks poised. He looks more confident. And he just looks overall in a better spot in his game. So Brendan Dillon, absolutely phenomenal so far. And also, while this isn't a positive, but it's really unfortunate that Shimon Nemitz and Seamus Casey, it's been 2 seasons now, and that situation still isn't really fully resolved. It's been a little puzzling. Nemitz obviously went through all that drama last season, then started to emerge in the playoffs, and he's put up some offensive numbers, but his defensive game is not super well rounded. It is at times, but he just hasn't been able to put it all together. And then Seamus Casey, look, I'm not denying that he absolutely can be a great defenseman in the NHL one day. I'm confident he can be, but he just he hasn't been able to put it together. He's a smaller defenseman, and he looks overmatched against those elite teams, like he did it against Carolina in the playoffs. Against Colorado, had some rough turnovers. He just didn't look like he belonged there at that moment, and that can certainly change. But the Devils, they need results right now, and they can't afford to put someone like Casey in the lineup, unfortunately. Hopefully that changes soon. It's unfortunate because reps is what can make someone like that better, but also you don't want to run the risk of hurting your team. So it's a tough situation for Casey. I feel for him, and like I said, he can certainly be an elite defenseman in the league, offensive defenseman at one point, but the Devils can't afford to keep trotting him out there, especially with all their injuries. They need more of a defensive presence, and I think they were hoping for that in Chalowski, but he's struggled as well. So that kind of bottom pairing now with the injuries, and that should all be sorted out if everyone can stay healthy and Pesci and Kovacevic come back. But for now, they're really struggling to get any sort of meaningful production out of their bottom defense pairing, and they're costing the team at times as well.
It's crazy how one player goes down and it just changes the whole trajectory of everything, right? I was saying it earlier on the episode, but it really does. Brett Pesci and Luke Hughes are usually paired up together, and we've seen Luke Hughes play some of his best hockey when playing alongside Brett Pesci. There's no denying that. And as soon as that gets taken out of the equation, Luke Hughes plays with Seamus Casey. That was, I don't want to say horrendous D pairing, but it wasn't good by any means. They didn't play well together. Dennis Chalowski's not going to come in and be good for the Devils. He's just an extra defenseman if they need it. Seamus Casey has struggled. Nemec has struggled. Luke Hughes has struggled really over this road trip ever since Pesci has gone down. It's just the young defenseman really having a hard time. Siegenthaler has struggled. The one defenseman I feel like who is actually playing really good right now is Brendan Dillon. I think he's been playing some of his best hockey for the Devils. He's really been stepping up for them, making plays defensively, keeping the puck in the zone, racking up those extra minutes. I think he played like 23 minutes the other night, which was like the most he's ever had for the Devils. So look, Dillon's stepping up for the team. You just need those young defensemen to really chip in more, step up.
Yeah, and I mean, Pesci is one of the better puck moving defensemen in the league, and I think that's a big issue. The Devils succeed off the rush. That's when they're at their best. And they're just not really, like, how many times against Anaheim was the puck just bouncing off their sticks? They were getting stood up at the blue line. That's something you don't typically see with a team as talented and as fast as the Devils. And I think a lot of that goes to Brett Pesci. And I think it's something that the quote unquote analytics nerds and the people who solely watch the game on the eye test can all agree on, that Brett Pesci is just such an important part of the Devils. And we saw that in the playoffs as well. So it's really, really unfortunate. And hopefully for the Devils' sake, he can get back as soon as possible. But they're going to have to find ways to pay attention to detail, to do the little things and just look, I mean, the whole league's going to be around 500, most of the league. So if they could just squeak out slightly above 500, maybe, I don't know, say Pesci's out 9 games. If they could go 5-4, or even somehow 6-3 and tread water, and then Pesci's back and get rolling again, and some other injured guys come back as well, because it's not just Pesci, there's a good chunk of guys out of the lineup. It's going to make a big difference. So unfortunate, but hey, silver lining, I guess. If the Devils are this injured now, maybe they're getting all the injury luck out of the way, and come April, they'll be in the playoffs, and they'll be a mostly, if not fully healthy team, because for all you know, they could be perfectly healthy now, and it wouldn't matter if they were injured come April. And that's what matters, how the health of your team come April, as long as you can get into the playoffs. And 16 teams make the playoffs in this league, so I personally find it very hard to believe, regardless of anything, that the Devils wouldn't make the playoffs. But I said that in 2023-24, so I can't say for certain, I guess, but they're just so immensely talented. I would find it very hard to believe.
I would too. And I just want to add two minor things. So, first off, they got to limit how many times they have defensive breakdowns. The Anaheim Ducks had so many prime scoring chances, so many breakaways, so many 2-on-1s. And yesterday's game, that cannot happen going forward. That the fact that the Ducks only got three, or they got the empty netter, so three actual goals from all that, it was insane. It gives credit to Allen there for stepping up and making some big saves. He did, but he gave up some weak ones as well. But they gotta stop those defensive breakdowns. You cannot have as many defensive breakdowns as the Devils had in yesterday's game. Another thing, real quick. I know we talk about the depth scoring. I know it's been a big positive for the Devils, but over this stretch, it kind of died down a little bit. They need Andre Palat to step up here. 1 point in 13 games is simply unacceptable. And I know he's not gonna have that same scoring touch as he once did in Tampa Bay, but 1 point in 13 games, it's not okay at all. I'd like to see that fourth line maybe chip in more, like guys like Cotter or Glendening, maybe get a goal from them every once in a while. So while you're out with those guys like Cody Glass and Connor Brown, hopefully those guys are back soon, because that changes a lot and makes everything much better and sustainable to get that depth scoring. But when you're without those guys, some of those guys are going to, in the bottom six, are going to have to step up eventually. And yeah, especially Palat. I know a lot of fans, and I know he has a lot of heat on him right now, considering how much the Devils are paying him. And he just really hasn't delivered much over these last couple of years now. At some point, he's going to have to step up. They need at least 10 to 15 goals from a player like him. That's what they signed him for, even late in his contract. He's going to have to step up at some point here.
Yeah, and look, I understand the premise of the Devils putting him on that top line, and how he does do a lot of things that he doesn't always get enough credit for, that don't show up on the score sheet, but he hasn't done those little things as much this season as he has in seasons past. And I think Stefan Nason is perfectly capable, and it's only been a few games, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but it looks like Stefan Nason can be a great fit on that line, and putting Palat in the bottom six, then it's not as much of a worry if he's not producing that kind of level. But when you're playing with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt, it's almost hard to only have 1 point in 13 games. I mean, Jacob Markstrom even has a point right now. So I feel for Palat. He's always had a lot of heat on him, like you said, somewhat unfairly, but at the same time, I think Stefan Nason is better suited for the type of game at this current point in their respective careers than Palat's is. So Devils are gonna have to figure that out, but still a lot of time. Very good record. What is it, 9-4 now?
Yep.
So it's really hard to complain about that, especially with their gauntlet of a schedule. Any Devils fan would have signed up for 9-4 when you were playing that many contenders and playoff teams right off the bat. But yes, leaving a sour taste in everyone's mouth. But we'll see how they bounce back. Huge test against Montreal. Like I said, Montreal is such a fun team to watch. They're pretty ridiculous. It seems like my whole Twitter and Instagram feed is just highlight reel goals and that Bell Center crowd going nuts. So we'll see if the Devils could hang with them, see if they could take them down. We know they have the talent to do so, but injuries and such, we'll see how it goes. We appreciate you all listening to this episode. Really excited that we've been able to more consistently upload for everyone, and the support has been tremendous. We really, really do appreciate it. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks for listening, and peace out.